say that. Thank you, Sally, for providing the music this morning. And I just want to pause for just a second and express my gratitude for Sally and for Vicki, actually, who have really made it a commitment to serve our community in a musical way. And one of the things that I have learned from talking with some of you and from reading the survey results, actually, is that music is important to this community. And we're going to continue to talk about it. We're going to continue to dive into it and express it in different ways and let that part of our service become even more vital and vibrant. And I so appreciate Sally for being a part of that journey, so you can appreciate and anticipate a growing musical experience here at Suncoast. So over the past week, I got the opportunity to spend several hours, Becky will laugh, many hours, with Reverend Susie. Your interim minister was able to pass off to me a lot of information that I needed and materials that I needed to begin my journey here as your senior minister. And I hope you know what a gift Reverend Susie was to this community. It is difficult for communities to attract an interim minister, and we owe her a debt of gratitude. And Susie, if you're watching at some point, we owe you a debt of gratitude and are so appreciative of your service to this community. And anyway, as we were discussing kind of what she had put in place for this particular Sunday, and I was sharing with her what I was going to talk about, we had a laugh. We had a big laugh because last Sunday she talked to me, and I referenced that already, that she's talked about the prequel and the current and the sequel and all of that. And she said, you're actually doing a sequel in your talk. She said, because one of her very first talks here at Suncoast was about the Hokey Pokey. And it was. And we laughed because the synchronicity of it, and Spirit seemed to have a sense of humor, because that's what really spoke to my heart to talk about today as well. So my angle of my talk is quite different than hers, and we enjoyed talking about that as well. But we're going to talk about the Hokey Pokey this morning because I believe that is what life really is all about. That's what it's all about. So you remember the old childhood song, right? Okay, so I grew up in Colorado, and in Colorado, the weather is much different than it is here. I'm learning that. And when we had PE class and it was snowy outside, the PE teacher would take us into the gym, and she would get out this old scratchy record player, and she would put on this record of the Hokey Pokey. Now, you can imagine that. It was an indoor activity designed to get our energy out. Okay, so when you're in like the third grade, your 8-year-old body has a lot of energy it needs to expand and get out of itself. And so as the music would begin, we would do that old rhyme. We would put our right hand in, we'd put our right hand out, we'd put our right hand in, and we'd shake it all about. We'd do the Hokey Pokey and return ourselves about. And my favorite part was when all the little 8-year-olds would jump in and put our whole selves in, and we would just dance wildly, because when you're 8 and you're asked to put your whole self in, you put your whole self in, right? And so there's just no self-consciousness, no anything, we just go for it. We did really put our whole selves in, and so that begs the question, when is the last time you put your whole self into a thing? And the next question is, when is the last time you took your whole self out of a thing? So that's the next line of the song. So we're going to explore this idea. And as any good minister would, I try to figure out, okay, where did the Hokey Pokey come from, right? That's part of my week, is I research crazy things like that. So here's the deal. When you look up the origins of the Hokey Pokey, there's really no agreement. No one, they argue online who wrote it, who came up with it. Well, we know that it dates back, versions of it date back until the 1850s in England. And again, there's no consensus over the first version of it. And many believe that the words hokey pokey are actually a cute way of referring to hocus pocus, which is referring to magic, which is kind of like a slam to the Catholic Church and the Church of England. Okay, so there's some of that in there as well. So no one knows for sure, but for our purposes here today, I just want to kind of break the rhyme down and let's see if we can find some spiritual truth or some kind of lesson in all of it. And that's kind of one of the fun parts of my ministry, is to find spiritual truth and a spiritual lesson in common everyday things, like pop culture. Sometimes I'll pull out a movie or a song or whatever, and I try to bring it into my talks because it's more entertaining actually, but it also, I want to trigger that idea in you that there's spiritual truth everywhere around us. We just have to look for it. And these analogies kind of help us explore spiritual principles. So back to the hokey pokey. So why don't we always put our whole selves in? I think we learn to hold ourselves back a bit. As we learn to protect ourselves in life, we hold back. We might put in our right hand or our left hand to kind of test the waters. And Sally and I were exchanging emails about this week, and she said the right hand symbolizes our giving side, our contribution side, our directing and making choices side. And our left hand kind of symbolizes that nurturing side, or that receiving, receptive side of ourselves. So if we put one side of or another of ourselves into a thing, and if we find fulfillment in that way, we might choose to tiptoe in a little bit further. Isn't that kind of how you do your life? It's kind of how most of us do. We kind of seek to protect ourselves from disappointment, or from hurt, or rejection, or insult, or injury. We're trying to hold ourselves back. We lean back. Most of us take a kind of wait and see attitude. But here's my question. Is that habit of holding ourselves back a little bit, is that based in spiritual truth? I don't think it is. So here's what Ernest Holmes is the founder of our philosophy, and he wrote a lot of books. And so I'll quote from different books from time to time, and this is from How to Change Your Life. And here's what he says. Good is at the root of everything, regardless of its seeming absence. But this good must be recognized. Since there is but one Spirit, and this Spirit is at the heart of everything, it is in you and in everything, then everywhere you go, you will meet this Spirit. You meet Spirit in people, in places, and in things. This one Spirit, which manifests itself in and through all, including yourself, automatically adjusts parts to the whole. Therefore, you may accept with positive certainty that the Spirit within you goes before you and prepares your way. So I think what he is saying is that since Spirit within you is going and preparing your way, and since all you will ever interact with in life is Spirit, why don't you put your whole self in? And shake it all about, for that matter. Right? So there's actually a story that's fresh in the news this week that I want to bring up because it illustrates perfectly someone putting their whole self in. So if you've been following this, you might be familiar, but let me just kind of tell you the story. There's a young pop singer who's very beautiful and talented. Her name is Selena Gomez. Everybody familiar with what happened in the news this week about Selena Gomez? She finally has come back into the public eye, and here's why. She has been, about 5 years ago, she was diagnosed with lupus. Lupus is an autoimmune disease that wreaks havoc in your system depending on what system it comes into. And it began to impact her daily functioning. And it sounds like her health challenges got greater and greater as time went by, and it recently has shown up as kidney failure. Now she was facing extreme fatigue, but she just kept pressing on. And in an interview this week, she actually said that she refused to accept her diagnosis. She refused to accept it. Now that's a whole nother Sunday talk. But she refused to accept her diagnosis, and she continued in the public eye until about a year ago. And people were wondering why wasn't she promoting her music and everything anymore. And she just was silent on the subject. But behind the scenes, she was having her family all tested to see if they could be a kidney donor. Now she lived with a girl named Francia Reza, I want to get her name correct. And even her roommate, that she lived with every day, she did not talk about her disease with her. Francia did not know what was wrong with Selena. But Selena kept withdrawing and withdrawing. And finally, it came out one day that she was in kidney failure, and she was so just depressed and withdrawn because none of her family could donate a kidney. And Francia stepped up that day and said, in that conversation, I will get tested. I will give you my kidney. And Selena was like, no, I was not asking for that. Francia would have nothing of it. She went to the hospital, and in 24 hours, a 6-month process of kidney approval was reduced to 24 hours. She was approved to give a kidney. She was a match, and they went through the surgery, and now Selena is finally back in the news talking about this experience with great gratitude. Now, the story is remarkable because we understand the leap it took for Francia to step up, not a relative, a friend, to give a kidney and give herself, literally her whole self, to make a difference. Now I know that the story is big because Selena's famous, but I think it would be a big story no matter whether anyone in the story was famous or not. Because it's noticeable to us when someone enters any situation and immediately puts their whole self in. Maybe you can think of someone in your life doing that right now, a new coworker or someone, they just jump in and put their whole selves in. Because we kind of expect people to hold themselves back a little bit. But in Francia's case, she knew she could matter. She could matter in this situation. And when we hear stories like this, it invites us to remember that we matter. That we matter. Our contribution matters. You know, Oprah Winfrey interviewed hundreds and thousands of people over her career, and she said one truth she came to is that people want to know that they matter. People want to understand that they matter no matter what their life looks like. So I think the Hokey Pokey teaches us that and reminds us that not only do we matter, but our whole selves matter. Not just our right hand, or what we can give, not just our left hand, but our whole selves matter. How would your life be different if you started showing up absolutely fully in everything you do? You know, we do that at the beginning of things sometimes. Think back to when you first started a job. You know, when you were interviewing, is a good example. They're so excited and nervous and they want to put their best self forward. They're totally showing up present. And then you get hired for the job, and your first day of work, you pick your outfit, you're so excited. You put your whole self into the project and getting to know people. And you anticipate the first of everything in a new situation. In those first days, we show up fully present, energetically. Our mind is there, our emotions are there, our focus is there. We really care, we know we matter. How about in a new relationship? Think about that when your new love and you're all super cute and you're dressing just right, you're fixing yourself on the way over there, and you show up fully. You listen to every word they say, you laugh at every joke. You are present. You're present, you're excited, you're there, you're showing up, your whole self, physically, emotionally, mentally, everything is there in that moment. But things begin to change, don't they? It just seems to be human nature. We begin to withdraw our enthusiasm, our energy from it. We get disappointed when things don't match our expectations. We lose faith in ourselves as the attention begins to shift to someone else. When we doubt our choices and we start to do the next line in the song, we start to put our whole selves out. We allow our intention and our energy to slowly ebb out of things, don't we? Yet it is at these moments when we notice that we are draining our energy from a thing, that we are once again at choice. What if in that moment when we notice our withdrawal, if we realize that that entire situation, that relationship, that job, that whatever was put on our path by our consciousness, our spirit drew that to us for our growth, for our evolution. And if we remember that, it can remind us that we have a choice. We can stay and do our work. And what if we chose to follow the next line in the song? The next line in the song, and put our whole selves back in? Because that's the next line. We put our whole selves out. We put our whole selves in, and we shake it all about. What if the shaking it all about is our opportunity to do something different? What if it's the opportunity and invitation to shake off the dust of our self-protective habits and take a fresh look at what thoughts you're bringing to the situation, what beliefs and actions you're putting in? When we put our whole selves back into a thing in life that we have chosen, we have the energy present in that moment to make a fresh choice at a higher level of consciousness or awareness. We are aware. Now, when we make that fresh choice, we might choose to stay and keep that situation going, or we may choose to end it. But we're doing it intentionally and with consciousness. We're not just slowly ebbing out of something. Because I think putting our whole selves back in and shaking it all about is when the magic in life really happens, when the hokey pokey begins. When our whole selves are back in, we're living in the awareness that we matter. Our presence matters. Our energy matters. Our choices matters. Our gifts matter. Even our kidney can matter, right? We just have to fully show up. And when we make the choice to fully show up, guess what happens? What our teaching says is what we focus our attention on, Spirit fills that mold. Spirit comes in behind and inspires that with the energy of life itself. The divine energy of the all is directed by what we pay attention to, by what we focus on. And I believe that is how we change our individual lives, how we turn ourselves about. So that's how it works for us as individuals. But how does this work? How does this hokey pokey work for us as a collective community? You know, as your new spiritual leader, I'm really interested in how do we make these principles work for us as a community, as a spiritual family. You know, one of the things that I've heard from you is that you want to grow. Every conversation I have with someone, we want to grow. We want more people. We want more tithes and offerings. We want more social activities. We want more. We want more of this good thing that we have. And my job is to join you in fulfilling your vision for the spiritual center that you want. So let's agree, let's just agree we want to grow and expand. So here are my thoughts on that. When I interviewed with the search committee, one of the things I said in the interview is that we must agree that whether we have 5 people in a room or 50 people or 500 people, we have to show up fully. We have to put our whole selves in. This is our weekly opportunity to come together and learn more about this philosophy, yes, but also to commune in spirit, to worship and to love each other, to find a friend, to offer support, to have a listening heart. That's what we're here for. And here's what I know. As long as there have been human beings, as all recorded history, even down to cave drawings, there has always been a time for ritual, for feasting, and for God. It is in our inherent makeup as a human being to participate in this type of community. Our ancient ancestors did it. Our recent ancestors did it. Likely our grandparents did it, our parents did it. We're right here doing it today. And it may have looked very different from generation to generation, I grant you that. But nonetheless, today in our modern lives, we have chosen to do these things together here. This feasting and this ritual and this God stuff. You know, our brothers and sisters are around the world today in temples and synagogues and churches and spiritual centers doing this, putting their whole selves in to spiritual community. We just choose to do it here. So here's where the hokey pokey comes into our conversation about our spiritual home. What are you putting in? What are you putting in? Are you putting your right hand in? Are you putting your left hand in? Do you put your feet in and treat and move your feet and all that? What would it take to inspire you to put your whole self in, or your whole self back in, or keep your whole self in if you're already there? I think you hired me to put my whole self in. And I invite you to put your whole self in with me. What would happen if we did that? If we made a full commitment to be here with each other on Sunday, whether we're in this place or another place, but we committed to coming together and growing together. What if we all joined together and financially fully supported this ministry and what it can do? What if we sang loudly and hugged tightly and listened carefully to each other? What if we came together to love God, but also to love each other, and most importantly, to love ourselves more? Here's what Holmes says in a book called How or Can We Talk to God? He says, there is something in us that longs for sympathetic understanding, the kindly response, the sense of a presence which is warm, pulsating, and colorful. We must have it. And I sense that as we meet each other in love and friendship, in the warmth of a handshake and in good fellowship, it is God. What we are craving is God. We long for others to put their whole selves in too. He says that we long for others to understand us and listen with a kindly heart, to show up colorfully and warmly and full of life. And when we encounter that, we know we are encountering God itself showing up with each other. You matter. Your time, your talent, and your treasure matter to this community. If you are not physically present, you are missed. I still have to learn your name, so you gotta be here so I can learn your names. Your gifts are needed here and your talents are needed here too. But most importantly, when you're here, show up fully, warmly, and colorfully, and full of God life. But here's what I also know. But I also know that each of us are individuals. We're each looking for a little something different in a spiritual home than the person sitting next to us. Our philosophy teaches that our thoughts co-create our reality. What we intentionally think about, we bring about. So as I close my talk, I want to lead us in a guided meditation. Because I want us to remember that our thoughts are creative. Please, please join me in thinking positive and inspiring thoughts about Suncoast. You know, as you have your morning sacred cup of coffee or meditation or whatever you do to daydream or use your thinking power for your good, drop Suncoast in there and think that positive thought, because this center can be magnificent. It is magnificent for all of us here this morning, but for others, for the entire city of Tampa, this center is a blessing. And then I invite you to put your whole self in. What are you willing to put in to make that vision your reality? Let's put our whole selves back in and shake it all about. For you see, our thoughts matter, our actions matter, our contributions matter, because we matter. You matter.